report is out from the two progressive UK-based think tanks, IPPR and the Commonwealth think tank, or whatever it's called. They call themselves the Commonwealth. And they analyzed 1,350 companies list on stock markets in the UK, the US, Germany, Brazil, and South Africa. And what they found was that there was an increase in profits after the end of the pandemic. In other words, we're trying to answer the question, why is it in 2021 and 22, 2 years ago and last year, we saw such incredible inflation, particularly in these countries? And what they found was that in the UK, for example, profits rose by 30%, with 11% of those companies garnering super profits. In the US, the profits were even more excessive, involving 33% of the companies. Fully one-third of all American companies listed on the stock exchanges were engaging in price gouging, and that was driving inflation. They specifically call out giant energy companies, mining companies, and monopolistic food companies, telecommunications companies, technology companies, and banking companies. They note that ExxonMobil, for example, this is just one example. The profits, prior to the average profits were around $20 billion a year. It was 18.9, before the pandemic. It went to $66 billion last year. Shell, normal profit, $20 billion, went to $55 billion. Archer Daniels Midland, the largest food company in America, their average profit, $1.7 billion, rose to $4 billion, or previous profit. Kraft Heinz, another one of the very largest food companies in America, their $333 million profit rose to $2.3 billion. What is doing this? Monopolistic market clout. This all goes back to neoliberalism, what I was talking about in the opening segment. This thing that Margaret Thatcher imposed on the United Kingdom in 1978. Jimmy Carter, put his toe in the water in 79, deregulating the railroads and the trucking industry. And then Ronald Reagan just embraced full hog and brought to America in 1981. And, allowing big companies to become massive companies and wiping out the small companies. America used to be, peppered with small companies. There used to be millions of small local companies. Your local downtowns used to be all small local companies. Your malls used to be small local companies. It might be anchored by a national chain like Sears or something like that, but they were mostly local companies. No more. In fact, they note that the global GDP had market power not risen. In other words, had these companies not had monopoly power, had they not driven their competitors out of business, and they just have an absolute hands around our throats in terms of their ability to set prices, because we have no place else to go. Had that not happened, GDP would have risen by 8% more. Or another way of putting that is that an 8% increase in spending that would have been part of an increase in GDP ended up entirely in the coffers, in the money bins of these giant corporations and their billionaire stockholders and CEOs. They said that labor income is significantly lower, working people got screwed, and economic dynamism is weaker. We all got screwed. They note that 4 companies, Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, Cargill, Bunge, BUNGE, and Dreyfus, account for 70% of the global grain market, and they registered a dramatic rise in profits in 21 and 22. They went up 255% in 2021 for those 4 companies' profits. They're saying that we need a global approach to excess profits, tax them, put a 10% tax or a tax on profits over 10 that are more than 10% above the norm for those companies or industries. I say just break up the big companies. Roll back neoliberalism. Let's just do the right thing. This doesn't seem like, rocket science, frankly. So, let's take a step here and do this right. It seems to me that if we were to start, and by the way, kudos to the Biden administration. They actually are starting to try to break up some of these companies. They're suing Google right now. It's getting almost no publicity in the press outside of the Financial Times, the economic press. But the Biden administration is going after these big companies, and they're blocking some of these big mergers. They're looking right now at blocking the merger between JetBlue and Spirit, I think. It's one of the other super discount airlines. And, good on them. We need more of this.